Reversing market trends is probably one of the greatest skills of a good agent because they can adapt boldly to what's happening today. So as the size of a pie might shrink, they then go and get either a larger slice of the pie or they open up another pie pretty quickly called a secondary market. And this is an interesting conversation because if a market shifts, what are you going to do to make sure that your business still grows? Now, what I know is that not really a lot of things actually change, but what happens is a lot of agents get kind of panicky when they see things that are kind of shifting in a market and they don't know how to react because maybe they haven't been through those circumstances before. What I can tell you is that a business is built on some really simple foundations, and that's about serving a customer who's actually got a problem. And so what you've got to do is you've got to really focus on how do you find more of the customers that have actually got a problem inside of your marketplace today. Now, the great idea here is that no one actually goes to a car dealership because they're fundamentally happy with their car, and people don't turn up to open homes because they're fundamentally happy with where they live. And the other great idea here is that people don't actually go and inquire online either if they don't have some level of dissatisfaction with their current property in terms of looking for something else in terms of a solution. But what you've got to do to reverse against market trends is that you've got to start to think boldly about how you're really going to put yourself in the front to actually really make great things happen. Now, what I know is that as the market changes, people go, oh my God, there's not as many people coming through open homes. Well, what that actually does is it impacts on your lead generation. Because if there's not as many people coming through open homes, you're not meeting as many people. And if the same percentage of the people that you meet actually progress through to selling, and there's less people that you're meeting, then all of a sudden you've got a real issue, and so you need to top up that layer cake. So this is what a great agent will do, is that they will reverse the market trends by understanding that ultimately in a business, there are two really important lists. The first list, for example, is what we call our buyer hit list. This is just all the people that we already know that are in a position that they need to buy, and ultimately that they're doing more actions than most other people. And so, what are some of the things that these people might do? They might come back for a second inspection. Maybe they make an offer on a property. Also, in addition to that, they might be in a position they come and bid at an auction. In New South Wales, they might register for an auction. They might request some changes to the terms. They are in a position that they stay at the open home for a longer period of time. Or even more than that, you know that they've got a definite need to purchase, aka because they've already sold, maybe they've got a job relocation, maybe they need to buy before or after the end of a financial year. Now, what actually happens here is that that buyer list is paramount when a market shifts, because what are people going to do when the marketing stops working? And this is what a great agent does, is that they review that list on a regular basis. Now, I've just worked out that if you've got an issue on something, you should meet on it regularly. Now, meeting on it regularly would mean that each week, maybe with you, your personal team, your sales team, everyone in your office, whatever is appropriate, you would actually sit down for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes and say, who are the best buyers in each price range? Those below 500, 500 a mil, 1 to 1.5, 1.5 to 2, you get the idea. And starting to really work through who those buyers are that have a higher level of urgency than most. AKA clarity about what their dissatisfaction is, clarity about their vision, about where they're going, and then preparedness to go and make those first steps happen. This is what a great agent does, is that they get into these situations and they really get that buyer hit list right. Now, the second thing that you need to have is what we're going to call our seller hit list. Same idea, but people that we actually think are genuinely going to move. And so we write up the months of the year, January through to December, and get a little yellow sticky note, and then we just simply go and put them on the months that we think they're going to trade and transact. And once we do that, we then stop, collaborate and listen, and we look at each of those and we say, what can we do to progress this person forward? Now, timelines are critically important, and what you need to do is to bring urgency to the table around why people need to do certain things. So here's a great little thing that we might use on urgency. What we're saying to people is that there is a situation here in Australia where there's a number of by-elections that are happening at the end of July. Now, what that means is that all of a sudden, there's a few marketplaces that are going back to the polls. If the government sees, for example, that they get a really good run on in some of those by-elections, they may call a snap election in September or October this year. Now, what we know is that during an election period, for that 6 weeks, it's not that the market stops, but it does go into a period of hibernation because people get a bit uncertain. Will there be a change of government? Is there any changes in relation to property laws? What does that mean for investors, superannuation? You get all of those decision things. And people are like, well, I'm not going to make a decision until I know the new environment that I'm going to be heading into. Now, why is that so critically important? In Melbourne, for example, football finals can really upset the market. That's September, an election all of a sudden in October. Mr. and Mrs. Owner, this is why I'd be coming now in August or July to actually see whether or not we can get the very best result for you. Now, what you're doing there is you're creating fear, which creates emotions, which creates a reason for doing something. And this is ultimately what a great agent does, is that they create reasons for urgency for people to have to act earlier than what they were initially anticipating. Now, if you want to reverse the market trends, there's only really a few numbers that you can focus on. That's your average sale price, that's your volume of transactions, and also in addition to that, that's your average fee. So which one of those are you actually going to tweak? What we're currently finding is that agents are being able to increase their fees because there's less pressure on fees, because now people are really looking for an agent that can actually sell their home, even given the changes to market conditions. So at the end of the day, for me, every year my business needs to be growing. And if it's not growing more than it was the year before, then there's something seriously wrong and I need to get out of the chair of being the CEO. So as far as I'm concerned, if I'm going to be in business, I need to be growing each and every year and find new ways to be of more value to the existing customer base. I really hope you've enjoyed this week's coaching tip, and I look forward to seeing you next week.